They never listened, darling. Chapter 2. As I entered the room, I saw one of the maids hiding her face behind her hands. The situation was clear. She had likely been verbally attacked once again. One of the other maids was comforting her. She tried to stifle her weeping and sobbing as best as she could, for that, precisely, was something no one of higher rank must ever witness. If she were to be caught, she would immediately face yet another punishment. Here, weeping was viewed as a weakness and implied that one could not endure the work. This would immediately lead to dismissal or, at best, a transfer. After a while, she began to feel better again. The reason once again was the butler. He had pinned something on her and then made a quick getaway. He is slowly but surely starting to get on my nerves. Not only does he pin things on me, but on all the other maids as well. We all exchanged glances, understanding one another without a word. Something had to be done before we end up losing our lives because of him. We decided that once our work was done, we would devise a plan at the tavern in town. The rest of the day passed without complications. Upon arriving at the tavern, we took seats in the very back corner so that no one could overhear us. Someone scolded me the other day because the laundry was dirty, even though I had just freshly washed it. I'm certain he threw it back into the puddle on purpose. I just don't understand the point of it. Did we do something to him, or is he doing this purely for his own amusement, knowing he won't be punished? Just ignore that, please. I think I have a good idea. To get rid of him, he'd have to do something even worse. Since no one is going to listen to us, I think I found a good way. We put our heads together and discussed our plan, which we intended to put into action the very next morning. The next morning we went about our work as usual, pretending that nothing had happened. Suddenly, the head maid stormed in, shouting, "Adalbert! Where the hell are you?" We all exchanged confused glances. Not all of the maids knew what our plan was. They had left the planning to Rosa and me. She waved a piece of parchment about in her hand. When she finally found the butler, she unfolded the letter and read it aloud. "I hereby confirm that the butler accepted bribes, regularly helped himself to the Queen's wine and silver stores, falsified bills, and became intoxicated in the presence of one of the Queen's guests. Therefore, I request that the butler be relieved of his current position and reassigned. Signed, the unknown knight." Adalbert, do you know where I found this letter? Who gave it to me? The Queen! You are relieved of your duties and will henceforth work as a stable boy. You can count yourself lucky that the Queen is showing mercy, since your uncle once saved her life. This is Her Majesty's final act of mercy. Get out of my sight. And quickly! With a visibly overwhelmed look, he threw in the towel and trudged away. Nevertheless, he kept his head held high until the very end, as he did not want to lose face. He did not suspect us, since maids are typically unable to read or write. Unfortunately, he did not know that I was proficient in both. Thus, Rosa and I drafted the letter together and, the next morning, slyly slipped it onto the Queen's breakfast tray. She was visibly incensed and immediately summoned the head maid to her presence. Our problem had, in this way, vanished into thin air. While he hadn't been banished from the world entirely, he no longer held any authority over us and was now far removed from our lives. Since he would not risk falling any further down the ranks, it was highly unlikely he would seek us out again to harass us. A few weeks passed, and the headmaid noticed that we had suddenly ceased to give her any cause for complaint. Once she realized that the transgressions likely did not originate with us, she began to show a little more leniency. Perhaps it was the faintest trace of a guilty conscience, but from then on she no longer judged us so harshly. Soon the Queen's banquet was upon us, an occasion on which she and the king hosted the rulers of the neighboring land. It was bound to be a hectic day, and we would likely have to work through the night. On such days, the finest dishes often went unfinished, as the noble guests consumed, if anything at all, barely a fifth of what was served. Leaving food on one's plate was, after all, a sign of affluence, as you can likely imagine. Fortunately for us, we were permitted to take the leftovers home. We began our preparations a full week in advance. We had to ensure that every room was put in order, every plate scrubbed spotless, and all the displayed suits of armor dusted. Every muscle in our bodies ached terribly, but anything was better than the punishments we had been forced to endure before. Piece by piece, day after day, the first guests arrived. We escorted them to their rooms and began to attend to them. The Queen could scarcely decide which of her many and extremely elaborate gowns she wanted to display first. Her jewelry ranked among the most expensive and valuable in the 5 surrounding kingdoms. A single ring would suffice to rebuild an entire city of 2,000 inhabitants and sustain it for 10 years, and that referred to the least expensive ring of all. The king adores her, and is the only one who has not taken a secondary wife. How the two met is known only within the upper class, therefore I regret that I cannot say anything about it. I know only that the king apparently fell in love at first sight, and they married 4 months after. The Queen has borne 3 sons and 2 daughters. These children are currently attending boarding school-style institutions and will therefore not arrive at the castle until the evening of the banquet. Unfortunately, they take after the Queen, who is known not for her kindness, but rather for her intense jealousy and extreme rage. When she flies into a fury, blood often flows. The king, on the other hand, is one of the kindest monarchs we have ever had. For this reason, I am always delighted when, for a change, I am permitted to assist in his private chambers. He radiates a warmth that is otherwise sorely missed throughout the entire castle. Every now and then, his warmth was so palpable that even we maids could feel it. On rare occasions, he would even let us taste the desserts, ostensibly to ensure they weren't poisoned, though who would believe that? He would always wink at us whenever we were allowed to take a bite. It would be an understatement to say that we all adored the king. As for the Queen, I would prefer to leave her uncommented upon. Be that as it may, we were extremely well prepared and felt very confident in our undertaking. We could hardly wait any longer. On the one hand, because we were all tired from the preparations, and on the other, because we were also looking forward to the banquet and the food. However, what transpired that evening was something none of us had seen coming.